Citroen C4 is a car that's hard to define. It's the size of a family hatchback like a VW Golf, but the pumped up wheel arches and elevated seating position are more like an SUV. The roofline is like a coupe, plus you can have it as a petrol, diesel, or as this fully electric e-C4. The C4 technically replaces two cars in Citroen's lineup, the slightly wacky C4 Cactus and the C4 hatchback. This latest iteration has quite a distinctive look. The front end is fairly similar to other new Citroen products, and it's got a distinctive V-shaped LED headlight design. Every C4 gets LEDs as standard, and you can pay a bit extra to get a flash of colour trim on the sides. There are loads of storage options up front. Under the central armrest you've got a cubby, there's another cubby in the front of that, and with two cup holders you've also got a tray which acts as a hidden compartment if you want to put valuables in it when you leave the car. There's also wireless phone charging above that, and along with a decent sized glove box you've got in every C4 apart from the entry level model, you've got a storage tray for a tablet and a mount that slides out where you can place the tablet to keep your passengers entertained on long journeys. Although if you have an iPad Air 2 or Galaxy tablet, you'll need to pay extra to get a bigger case for those to fit on the mount. In this broad spectrum of competitors, how does the C4's interior stack up? Well, this is definitely one of the best Citroen interiors yet. There's a really good build quality. There's a nice mix of materials, but it might not have the kind of wacky design that you find in the C3 Aircross. This logical and functional layout is very good and feels a bit more grown up than it does in that car. Comparing it to a Q3 Sportback or a BMW X2, those cars do feel more plush inside, but they're much more expensive. It's only really the Mazda CX-30 that feels a step up inside. The C4 is impressive. You get a 10-inch touchscreen which is mounted nice and high up on the dashboard. It's not quite as user-friendly as rival systems that use the rotary dial controller, and this means it's easier to use on the move, but the fact that the screen is so high up means it's within easy reach and you don't have to take your eyes too far from the road. Plus, you get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as standard. Best of all, you've got physical controls for the air conditioning, which is brilliant, because while you're driving, it's much simpler to make an adjustment with buttons and dials than it is if these controls are hidden within a fiddly touchscreen menu. The driving position is good, but you're actually lower than you are in basically every other SUV, so don't go buying it thinking that you're getting into a really lofty, high off the ground driving position. You're a little bit higher than you are in an X2 and a Golf or Focus, but compared to other SUVs, you really aren't that high. The driving position is comfortable, and there's lots of adjustment. In terms of ergonomics and comfort, the seats are comfortable. You get adjustable lumbar support as standard. It's just a shame there isn't a little bit more side support for when you're cornering. When you go to look in the rearview mirror, you've got a rear spoiler on the back which splits the rear windscreen in two. On one hand, this actually helps block out blinding and badly adjusted lights from the cars behind you, which may not have been an intentional design, but it's actually quite useful. The actual viewable area out of the back is limited anyway due to the tapering roofline. The handling overall in the e-C4 is very good. Due to the batteries, the centre of gravity is quite low, which makes it a bit more dynamic than its petrol and diesel siblings. It's relatively short-footed, the steering is accurate and nimble, yet this car has been engineered more towards comfort rather than sportiness. If you're looking for something agile and really entertaining, a lot of the traditional hatchbacks that the C4 is up against will offer a little bit more for you in that department, but it certainly has its strengths on the road, and it's also impressively quiet in the cabin. The electric e-C4 comes with a 50 kWh battery and a claimed range of around 350 kilometers depending on your use. It has two driving modes, Eco and Normal. We'd advise sticking to Eco as you get the most mileage out of it and there really isn't that much difference in driving style. In Normal mode, you'll wonder where the kilometers keep disappearing to. Eco mode does however advise that your comfort, see heating and cooling, will be affected. The 0 to 100 km/h test is around 9 seconds, which is decent. It's the same as the DS3 Crossback E-Tense and Peugeot's E2008 for instance, but it's a little bit behind the ID3's 6.6 second sprint. You'll also find that the e-C4's acceleration really starts to tail off after the 80 km mark, so bear that in mind if you do a lot of motorway driving. Its pace is absolutely fine around town though. Like the e-Niro, LED headlights are standard across the range. All trims come with rear parking sensors and a 360-degree sound view camera. Mid-level trim adds to this with front and lateral parking sensors. With the 10-inch touchscreen, it permanently displays the interior temperature settings on either side. The usable area now is more like 8 inches, yet still the screen is mounted high up and it's easy to see and play with. The operating system is miles better than the ID3. It's intuitive and it's responsive. You also get a long list of entertainment features, including inbuilt sat-nav, a DAB radio, Bluetooth, voice control, while the presence of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto means that you can access your phone's apps via the car's screen. It's a useful option because it bypasses the Citroen software. This is one of Citroen's best interiors yet, mixing good build quality with a pleasing palette of materials. It feels way better than the Nissan Leaf and Renault Zoe. It's also snazzier than the slightly somber looking e-Niro, and the materials feel much plusher than the ID3s, which are pretty much all hard plastic. On top of that, everything feels screwed together quite well, and it's really only the BMW i3 and Mazda MX-30 that feel noticeably posher. The e-C4's rear seats don't do anything clever such as sliding or reclining, but as with most small electric cars, you can fold down the 60-40 split backrests by pulling levers next to the outer rear head restraints. If you go for an e-C4, then the styling is absolutely identical to the fuel-powered version. The only thing that really differentiates them are a few extra E badges on the outside. It's quite interesting to look at, and the C4 is up against the Audi Q3 Sportback and the BMW X2, but the C4 is much cheaper than both of those, so it's more likely you'll be looking at the C4 or a Ford Focus, a Golf, or maybe even a more traditionally shaped family SUV like the Mazda CX-30 or Skoda Karoq. As a fully electric car, it's up against the likes of the Kia e-Niro and VW's ID3. The e-C4's boot floor is height adjustable, with only a small lip to lift luggage over when it's in its highest position. If you raise this up, it also levels out the extended boot floor when you drop the rear seat backs. The DS3 Crossback E-Tense doesn't have this feature, leaving you with an awkward step. There's also some useful underfloor storage for the charging cables, so the boot is free for luggage. Again, that's not something the 3 Crossback has, nor does the ID3. When viewed against similarly sized electric cars such as the 39 kilowatt Kia e-Niro and Volkswagen's ID3, the Citroen e-C4 is competitively priced. However, if you care about range and versatility more than an elevated driving position and style, you can get the long-range MG5, which will go significantly further for a lot less money. Resale values for the e-C4 will at least exceed the e-Niro and MG5, but are a little bit behind those of a Volkswagen ID3. As far as charging is concerned, the e-C4 can charge at 100 kilowatts per hour, which, if you can find a charger at a service station, will get you from 10 to 80% charged in around 30 minutes. This is much quicker than an e-Niro. A 7 kilowatt home wall box will charge it from around empty to full in 7 hours. If you fancy the stylish looking coupe SUV and want low emissions of an electric car, then the Citroen E4 is a good option. It's practical despite its swooping roofline, and it comes with a nicely appointed interior. There are lots of toys and a soft cushioning ride. Bear in mind that a Volkswagen ID.3 is faster, handles better, and while the cheaper MG5 has a much longer battery range, it's still a good buy.